Hey everybody, Life Coach Carissa here, back with you today to talk all about chasing happiness. I want to dig into why we do this, what the downside can be, and how we can evolve beyond this autopilot behavior of chasing the feeling of happiness. Can you relate to this? Do you have this inner desire to always want to feel happy? Do you always want your kids to feel happy? Do you always want your spouse to feel happy? The list could go on and on, right? Like, I feel this from day to day. I can feel this desire to pursue happiness. And so I do feel like I'm a bit of an expert in the area of chasing happiness. I spent so many years chasing after it and fighting to hold on to it every time that I felt like I had it. And what that really brought into my life was so much scarcity, control, and inauthenticity. Because when we really lose that perspective on what the true meaning of life is, we can get into this habit of trying to maintain these high levels of this feel good emotion at any cost. So when I'm in the groove of pursuing this happiness, I won't really be in connection with what's happening in front of me, what this person in front of me is saying, what my child is saying. I'm in this pursuit to make it happy again, right? And that's where all this control came in, and all of the scarcity of focusing on what wasn't right and not focusing on what was right. So I really feel like that I have come full circle on this, because even though I still struggle with it day to day, this desire for wanting things to feel good all the time, I have this better understanding of where it's all coming from, what's happening inside of me that kind of creates this desire, and how do I want to manage that. So let's start with, what is happiness? The definition of happy is the feeling of pleasure and contentment. So happiness typically involves positive emotions and being overall satisfied with your life. But let's look at what is physically happening in our bodies to understand this emotion on a deeper level. We feel happiness in our bodies due to the release of two hormones, dopamine and serotonin. And when our brain perceives something as happy, it is a signal to release these hormones into our central nervous system. So we're constantly in this desire for more of that dopamine, right? So we're looking for what can bring us that, and making everything go smoothly and the way that our brain would like it to be would give us more of that. So we fight to get as much as we can, and we look for opportunities to keep getting more of it. Okay. So I didn't even mention our primitive brain yet. I mean, its whole main focus is to feel pleasure and comfort and to exert as little energy as possible. So at all times, you have your subconscious primitive brain seeking more and more of those hormones, focused on what do I need to do to get more of it. And this is what really prompts us to get into that routine of chasing happiness. So I really feel like knowledge is power when it comes to all of this. When we understand what is happening and why, then we can use our intelligent brain to intentionally decide how we want to show up in the world. And that's what really helped me, was learning a lot of this back end information so that I could use that and decide how I want to go forward. Because if happiness is truly just a feeling, then it's always available to us, right? Happiness is something that we actually create in our brain with our thinking. So again, happiness is always available to us when we want it. That's a great thing, right? Does that make you feel optimistic? When we realize that it's not the outside circumstance that creates our happiness, it's entirely our thoughts about what is happening. That is our power. That is our ability to find peace and contentment in our life. And, we really start to think that happiness and joy is the goal. That is my purpose, right? To navigate this life and fight to achieve greatness and happiness every step of the way. I think we can get caught in that rut. I know I did. How many of us have had that thought When I get that job, I'll be happy. When I lose those 10 pounds, I'll be happy. When I marry this person, I'll feel complete and happy. When I have that baby, I will feel happy. When I divorce my spouse, I'll feel happy. When I move to a different house, when I buy that different car, when I take that vacation, when I have a certain amount of money in the bank, when my child wins that award. I mean, the list can go on, right? Just insert your list here. It really comes down to our thoughts about these circumstances and how much weight we give to them, how much importance we place on them. It's really important to think about this from a different view. On the way to achieving things, like I just mentioned, right? Like I said, insert whatever yours are there. And by the way, the divorce one is not something I am after. I am very happily married. But I was thinking about all the things that people might potentially think of. But when we're on our way to wanting to achieve those things, whatever they may be for us, we may not really feel happiness along the way of that journey, right? I mean, I'm not necessarily going to feel happy naturally when I have a goal to lose 10 pounds and I'm working towards that with intention and following a protocol. Like, I'm not going to probably be happy about it. Or if I'm pursuing a goal of setting aside a certain amount of money in the bank, I'm following a very strict budget. And sometimes maybe I have to decide, is this a need or a want? And I have to process that urge to buy something I shouldn't really do, right? It's very plausible that I'm not going to feel happy in all of that. When I decide what will make me happy, my brain is waiting for that signal that it's time to release those hormones. But the truth is, this is always available to me during the journey. I get to decide what I want to feel. And if I intentionally want to feel happiness along the way in that journey, I can decide that and do things to pursue that. I can make every milestone something that brings up pride and accomplishment. But let's not be afraid of not feeling happy. I think that's a very key part of this. I think that that is really what can free you from this autopilot behavior of chasing it. Because, if we want to feel happy because we have applied this meaning that feeling sadness and disappointment is horrible, and we must stay away from that at all costs. But if we can remind ourselves that the downside of life is where the learning and growing takes place. And that doesn't mean that our happiness has to be at risk, because again, we can have happiness available whenever we want it. But if I'm intentional about something and I'm going after a goal, I don't have to feel happy. I can feel that discomfort in that moment while I'm getting to that goal of mine. So I think one of the biggest and best realizations that I came to, that I practice intentionally in my life every day, is that I am absolutely not meant to feel great all the time, because that was the opposite of what I wanted before. I really wanted to feel great all the time, and I would do anything to try to have that feeling, that constant rush of those, positive hormones coming in. But in fact, it's really more realistic that I will feel good and happy only about 50% of the time. I have made peace with this. I have made peace with the downside of this 50-50 life that I am living. And even though I may not be feeling the emotion of happy, I feel a sense of peace and contentment in my life that I've never felt before. The truth is that we are not meant to be happy all the time. We need that contrast in our life. We need to understand sadness, disappointment, and frustration. We need to understand what failure feels like, whatever definition we want to give to failure. It's okay for us to feel that. Our being able to process all emotions is what allows us to live a full life filled with more peace and contentment. So I've also practiced in, my beliefs of how, we learn from the challenges. We grow most when everything is not as we think it should be. This is counterintuitive to everything that I always felt before. It's like, don't fail, don't mess up, do it 100%, right? So opening myself up to disappointments and letdowns in my life has actually brought me that peace and contentment that I seek. When I can look at all the struggles that I've had and the ones that I'm in now and the ones that are still yet to come, because I have them, right? It gives me peace and contentment to realize that this is the 50-50 life that I've been given to live? And how can I learn through these challenges? How can I become that next version of myself through these challenges and failures, right? How many fails can I have this year? And look at it from a positive state of mind and not a negative state of mind. So another aspect we really need to understand is that if we assign the meaning of happiness to things or objectives we want or, to have or to get to, then we are not really spending time in gratitude for what we do already have. And this is really what caused me so much pain, is that I looked at the scarcity in my life rather than everything that I had to be grateful for. When I assigned feeling happy to the accomplishments that I would make or my kids would make, I was always looking at what more needed to happen because I wanted more of that. And it really robbed me of my peace in the moment. I mean, I am all for having goals. Absolutely. But we need to be careful about what we make these goals mean and what we believe they are going to provide us with. These things are not what provide us with happiness. It's our thoughts about them. So go after what you want just because you want to challenge yourself and learn from the experience, but not because you think that it's going to feel better over there. Because I promise you, it's still going to feel the same a lot of the time. How many times do we hear of the rich and famous struggling with emotional balance in their life? The person that wins the lottery and then found themselves in a worse off place than before they even won the money, right? These things or these accomplishments don't always give us long-term happiness. It's a feeling of internal peace and contentment that we create from embracing all that goes well in the world and all that doesn't go the way that we would actually like it to. So remember, we cannot be happy all of the time if we are living a true, authentic life. It just cannot happen. We must have the contrast. Now, I know we've been taught that the pursuit of happiness is the goal, but what if the goal was to embrace a 50-50 life full of highs and lows, and it didn't leave us on this happiness roller coaster? What if we could feel happiness and sadness and process it for what it is, to not have it affect our actions and how we show up in the world to ourselves and others? So what can you do to evolve your relationship with happiness? First, recognize how much energy you spend on trying to create happiness in your life. Are you trying to control everything and everyone to keep the happiness meter full at all times? When life does throw you some curveballs, how do you handle it? Be honest with yourself when you answer those questions. Then I would suggest that you evolve your relationship with where you believe your happiness comes from. I could list so many things, but give some of these tips a try and, see if they move you towards more peace and contentment and less focus on the feeling of happiness alone. Practice gratitude daily for what you do have. Be thankful for the challenges life throws at you, and say thank you to your source and the universe for teaching you and helping you grow into a stronger version of yourself. Be present in all of your relationships. It's a tough one. Choose to live a healthy life. Choose to live a healthy lifestyle that includes exercise and sleep habits and meditation and prayer and foods that fuel your body. Look for the good in things and people instead of what looks to be wrong. Your primitive brain is always looking for what is wrong, but you can kind of rein that in and recenter yourself with focusing on what's good about this person, what's good about this situation. Another great one is to volunteer and help others. There is nothing more rewarding than doing something to give back. It will teach you so much about yourself, about what really, really does matter to you. And have a core set of values. Know what those are and try to live those to the best of your ability. A big one is to work to understand your feelings and where they come from better. I think that this work is not easy, and a lot of us don't want to spend the time on it because it just feels heavy and daunting. But I'm telling you, when you can work to understand what's going on between brain and body and mouth, right? Make that whole connection and understand why you're doing what you do and why you're saying what you say and what energy it's coming from. It is the most powerful, powerful lesson that you can ever take the time to learn. And then I would say have an open mind, right? A lot of us can look at the world as very black and white. And I've been very much trying to open myself up to the fact that there is a lot of gray, and that's okay, right? And lastly, find your life's purpose. Even if that will evolve and change as you grow older, ask yourself, what am I here for? How can I make this world and my little piece of it better for those around me today? That was really a driving force for me. What am I meant to do at this point in my life? How can I give to the world? And that really led me on the path of changing a lot of these things that I thought brought me happiness, but it was just superficial happiness. So look, we can be an example to others that life is not supposed to feel happy all the time, and it's okay, and we will be just fine. I want to be an example of that for people, right? A lot of people look at me or maybe look at others and we think that their life is easy, perfect, they have it all together. I mean, look, I'm watching what they're doing and it looks great. Let me tell you, we all have stuff going on. We all have baggage. We all have messiness. We all have things that we're trying to work through and overcome, some worse than others, right? So let's let go of some of that judgment and realize that we are all living a 50-50 life, even those that we put up on this pedestal, and just realize that we are all doing the best that we can. So let's start changing that narrative that the goal is to find peace and contentment in our life, even when we experience highs and lows. Let's make it normal to have an up and down life, because that is really our reality. And any other picture we're trying to paint is a lie. And living in pain and suffering because of a storyline that isn't real, why do we want to do that, right? Who are we doing it for? All right, so that is what I have for you this week, chasing happiness. I would love for you to move your focus away from wanting to feel the emotion of happy and see what it would take for you to find more peace and contentment in your life, exactly as it is. Even when things don't go the way you'd like, still aim for the stars, but don't hang your emotional balance on what goes right and wrong in your life. You are the creator of your life. No matter what happens to you, you can choose happiness whenever you want. It's available to you. But sometimes we are supposed to choose sadness and disappointment also. You get to tell the story. You get to change the narrative. You have to believe that you have this ability. Challenge your habits and your long-held beliefs. It really is quite good for us to do that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being one of my followers. You all mean so much to me because I know how hard it is to break out of what you've always been doing and try new things. I want you to know that I am so very proud of you. As always, please click that little subscribe button for my channel, and please click like and share if you really find the content helpful to you. It could be a part of helping someone else, and I want to be able to reach more people so that they can learn from these emotional management tools and improve their life. All right, everybody, I will see you in a couple weeks. Take care.